Have you ever felt like she's pushing your limits on purpose? That each question, each tease, each small request seems less about the thing itself and more about you? You're not imagining it. In relationships, especially romantic ones, you'll sometimes feel as if you're under quiet, constant evaluation. She may question your plans, challenge your decisions, or deliberately provoke a small argument. It can feel confusing, even unfair, like a trap designed to expose your weakness. Yet, hidden inside this uncomfortable process is a truth about human nature. Women aren't the only ones who test. People test power, loyalty, and consistency every day without realizing it. And when someone invests emotionally in you, the stakes go up. So what you're experiencing may not be cruelty. It may be an instinct as old as time. Today, we'll explore why women test boundaries, how these tests reveal your own self-leadership, and what you can do to stop feeling ambushed and start feeling grounded and respected.
When people hear the name Machiavelli, they often imagine shadowy plots, manipulation, or even villainy. Yet Niccolò Machiavelli, a 16th century Florentine diplomat, was first and foremost an observer of how power, loyalty, and stability work in real life. His most famous book, The Prince, wasn't a manual on how to be cruel. It was a guide on how a leader can survive and keep order in a world where human beings naturally test limits. Machiavelli noticed a pattern. Whenever someone has authority, a king, a general, even a father, the people under him will push to find where the boundaries are, not necessarily to overthrow him, but to know how far they can go, what is tolerated and what is not. He argued that a leader who never enforces boundaries invites chaos. A leader who enforces them harshly invites rebellion. True power, he wrote, is measured and predictable. It is strength without hysteria. This observation translates seamlessly into our modern personal lives. In a romantic relationship, a woman emotionally invests in a man, but simultaneously wants to know, is this man consistent? Can he handle stress? Are his values real or just performance? Just as citizens test a prince, she will, consciously or unconsciously, test her partner. She may question his decisions, gently provoke him, or create small conflicts, not out of malice, but out of instinct. It's a way of finding security, of checking whether she can trust his leadership without feeling dominated. Machiavelli would say that failing such a test is not about losing a battle, it's about signaling instability. When you cave at every push, you communicate unpredictability. When you explode in anger, you communicate tyranny. But when you enforce boundaries calmly, you communicate strength and safety. You become, in his terms, a prince worth following. A person whose rules are clear, whose reactions are consistent, and whose composure does not depend on circumstances. Interestingly, Machiavelli also warned leaders not to mistake popularity for true respect. A leader who tries to please everyone will end up pleasing no one. He becomes weak and resented at the same time. In a relationship, the parallel is obvious. If you sacrifice every standard to keep the peace, you don't create love, you create contempt. By holding your ground respectfully, you actually provide the structure in which affection and trust can grow. Seen through Machiavelli's lens,
Boundary testing in relationships isn't a game of manipulation, but a search for security. She is not trying to topple you, she is checking whether you are solid. And the best response is not counter-testing or playing mind games, but embodying measured self-leadership, being predictable, fair, and calm under pressure. That, Machiavelli would argue, is what turns a fragile alliance into a lasting one.
Women test to reveal your strength and self-leadership. At its heart, boundary testing isn't about manipulation, it's about calibration. Imagine you're standing on a suspension bridge. Before you step fully on it, you press it with your foot, checking whether it holds. That's what testing does. She's feeling for your firmness. These tests can be subtle, teasing you about your habits, questioning your choices, arriving late to see how you react, making a request that conflicts with your priorities. Each of these isn't a random act. It's information gathering. She's unconsciously asking, will he hold steady? Does he know who he is? Can I trust him under stress? Modern psychology echoes this. In attachment theory, security is built by consistent responses. When your responses fluctuate wildly, angry one moment, pleading the next, you telegraph insecurity. When you remain calm, clear, and kind, you telegraph reliability. This is why women often report increased attraction to men who are decisive but not rigid, confident but not arrogant. The paradox is that passing a test isn't about winning or dominating. It's about not needing to win. It's showing that your sense of self isn't up for negotiation. You're not punishing her, nor are you bending over backwards. You're simply living your standards. Seen through this lens, a test stops feeling like an attack and starts feeling like feedback. It tells you where your boundaries are blurry. It invites you to step into self-leadership, leading yourself before trying to lead anyone else. Think back to your own relationships, not just romantic ones, but friendships, work, even family. How many times have you felt as if someone was quietly pushing against you, testing how you'd react? Maybe it was a girlfriend teasing you about your priorities, a coworker undermining a decision you'd already made, or even a sibling ignoring a boundary you'd set. Each time, you felt a surge of frustration. Why are they doing this to me? You thought. It felt like a trap, an ambush, a test you didn't sign up for. For many men, the emotional pattern is almost identical. At first, there's confusion. You don't know whether it's a joke, a challenge, or an attack. Then there's irritation. You feel your space shrinking. And finally, there's either a blow-up or a retreat. You either lash out or back down. And afterward, you're left with a bitter taste, regret for having snapped, or shame for having folded. If you've ever been in that position, you're not alone. It's a near universal male experience. Men in online forums talk about it late at night. Men in therapy unpack it years later. The sense of being tested can feel like walking on eggshells, never knowing when the next boundary push will come. Yet at the same time, if you're honest with yourself, you've probably also noticed a strange counter-phenomenon. When you did handle the moment calmly, when you stayed grounded and didn't over-explain or overreact, the tension dissolved. She relaxed. Respect grew, and you felt stronger. That feeling isn't an accident. It's your nervous system recognizing self-leadership. It's the difference between acting from panic and acting from principle. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Those small, tense moments are actually opportunities. They reveal to you where your own boundaries are fuzzy, where you haven't yet fully committed to your own standards. So instead of dreading tests, you can start using them as feedback. They're showing you exactly where you need to grow. They're revealing how consistent you are under stress. They're giving you a chance to become the version of yourself you say you want to be. The man who's calm, clear, and attracted not because he's performing, but because he's anchored.
This video is about naming that experience, explaining the deeper logic behind it, and showing you how to transform those frustrating tests into the very moments that build respect, trust, and connection. Here's the paradox almost nobody talks about. Her tests are less about her power over you and far more about your power over yourself. They are not traps designed to humiliate you, they are small windows into your own self-concept. Every time she pushes, she is unconsciously asking a question you may not yet have answered. Who are you when you're under pressure? The deeper truth is that boundary testing is not a uniquely female behavior. It's a human behavior. Children do it with parents, employees do it with bosses, societies do it with leaders. It is how we discover the shape of reality. When someone invests in you emotionally, and women investing in a relationship are investing deeply, the instinct to test is even stronger because the stakes are higher. She is trying to verify if the ground she stands on is solid, if the man she's opening herself to can hold his own life without asking her to hold it for him. Once you grasp this, the sting disappears. You stop taking the tests personally, stop seeing them as attacks on your dignity. Instead, you see them as mirrors. Each test reflects your own internal alignment back to you. Did you act from fear, from anger, from a need for approval, or from calm clarity? In this way, her testing becomes a kind of free training ground. It shows you in real time where you're solid and where you're still shaky. This is the revelation. You don't need to beat the test or win the exchange. You only need to stay congruent with who you are. The goal is not to punish, not to retreat, not to perform, but to embody self-leadership in real time. And the paradox is that when you stop trying to pass the test and start simply being anchored, the tests lose their edge. She relaxes, respect deepens, and attraction follows naturally.
So, how do you actually apply all of this when you're in the middle of a test? How do you move from understanding the theory to embodying self-leadership? The first step is private clarity. Before you're in a heated moment, take time to define your personal non-negotiables. These are your boundaries, how you spend your time, how you're treated, what you will and won't accept. Write them down. They don't have to be dramatic or rigid, they just have to be real. If you don't know your boundaries ahead of time, you'll improvise under pressure, and improvisation usually looks like anger or collapse. Second, communicate calmly and early. Boundaries work best when they're expressed before the moment of tension. If punctuality matters to you, say so with kindness. If you need time for your work, schedule it openly. This isn't about making demands, it's about showing that you respect yourself enough to be clear. Third, respond with consistency, not drama. When a boundary is tested, resist the urge to lecture or explode. Don't punish, don't retreat, simply act according to the standard you've already set. If she cancels last minute on a plan, don't guilt trip her. Calmly make other plans. If she teases you about a value, don't defend endlessly, smile and reaffirm it. Consistency communicates strength far more than speeches. Fourth, reward respect with warmth. People, including women, respond to reinforcement. When someone honors your boundaries, acknowledge it and reciprocate with trust and affection. This creates a positive feedback loop where mutual respect deepens naturally. Finally, practice self-regulation. Your tone, your posture, your breathing, all of these send signals. Staying calm under pressure is a trainable skill. The more you rehearse calm responses in low-stakes situations, the easier it will be when the stakes are high. By living these steps, you're not performing a trick to pass tests. You're training yourself to embody steadiness. Over time, you'll notice fewer tests, less tension, and more authentic connection, because she'll feel what Machiavelli described: a leader who's predictable, fair, and strong without needing to dominate.
Picture yourself 6 months from now, having lived these principles. You've taken time to define your values. You've practiced communicating them without drama. You've trained yourself to stay calm, even when you're challenged. At first, the changes feel subtle, but then you start to notice a shift. Conversations that once left you anxious now feel easy. When someone teases or tests you, you don't feel threatened, you feel centered. Your voice is steadier, your decisions are clearer. You no longer scramble to please or rush to punish. You simply respond from who you are. She notices too. Where before she might have probed or second-guessed, she now relaxes. She feels safer because she can trust the ground beneath her. Respect grows, and with it, genuine attraction. The whole dynamic of your relationship begins to transform from tension and guessing to clarity and mutual trust. Even more important than her response is your own. You begin to like the man you're becoming. You feel stronger not because you're controlling anyone, but because you're controlling yourself. Boundaries stop feeling like walls and start feeling like architecture, the structure that holds your life up. This is what self-leadership looks like in action. It's not about domination or manipulation. It's about calm consistency. And as you embody it, you'll find that not only your relationships improve, but your work, your friendships, and your overall sense of direction. You become, in the truest sense, the prince Machiavelli described. A person who doesn't rule with fear or flattery, but with steadiness and clarity.
If this message resonated with you, if you're tired of feeling tested, second-guessed, or drained by boundary games, don't just nod and scroll away. Hit subscribe right now. This channel is dedicated to unpacking timeless psychological and philosophical truths so that you can become unshakable in who you are. Click the like button to push this video out to other men who need it. Leave a comment below sharing your own experience with boundary testing. Your story might be the one that wakes someone else up. And if you know a friend or brother who's stuck in the same cycle, share this video with him today. Every week we're dropping in-depth breakdowns of how thinkers like Machiavelli, Plato, and Jung can change the way you see relationships, power, and self-leadership. Subscribing isn't just about supporting the channel. It's about joining a growing community of people committed to living awake, grounded, and free.